Chinese fighter plane was taken down by a flock of birds during a combat training exercise. We'll be taking a look at this incident and the broader issue of China's recent air incursions. Also, the U.S. move to ban members of the Chinese Communist Party from entering the United States is moving forward, and this does not only affect leaders of the Chinese Communist Party. I'll be explaining this more. I'll also be interviewing M.A.Taylor, he's the director of Riding the Dragon, about the allegations of Hunter Biden's exploits in China and Russia, so stick around for that. Welcome back, everyone. First off, some breaking news. A Chinese fighter plane was taken down by a flock of birds on October 5th. Videos of the incident were released by Chinese state media. It happened during a training exercise of the China Southern Theater Air Force when a flock of birds flew over the right side of a low-flying jet's fuselage, and as birds struck the aircraft, the engine lost its power. Now, to be fair, incidents like this aren't uncommon. There have even been cases of F-16 fighter jets being forced to land due to damage caused by birds. According to the Department of Defense Partners in Flight program, birds cause around $75 million a year in damages to U.S. military aircraft. And for this reason, the U.S. military has developed various technologies to monitor for birds, to avoid them, and to reduce damage if there is a collision. For the Chinese Communist Party, though, incidents like this are blows to its public image, which also raises some questions on why its state media would publish a video like this. This also happens as China is increasingly launching incursions into the airspaces of Japan and Taiwan. According to Apple Daily in Hong Kong, the CCP has sent 51 jets into Taiwan's airspace. And each time this happens, a Taiwanese fighter jet needs to be scrambled to chase them off. Now, while this can be seen as normal harassment, it also comes with real costs. Each time a fighter jet is scrambled, it costs Taiwan around $35,000 in operational costs. Now, because of this, some analysts believe the CCP is using this strategy to drain Taiwan's defense budget. Scrambling jets to respond 51 times based on that number could cost around $1.78 million. And this was in a time span for Taiwan of just 16 days. Now, analysts have also pointed out that this war of attrition likely hurts the Chinese Communist Party a whole lot more. China mainly uses Russian jets, and even its domestic jets typically use Russian engines. The lifespan of the aero engines and airframes of Taiwan's F-16 jets are up to 12,000 hours. But for China's Russian-made jets, they get less than 2,000 hours. And in terms of flight costs, it takes around $6,500 an hour to fly an F-16 jet, while it takes around $20,000 an hour to fly a Chinese Su-30 jet from Russia. And keep in mind too, these are not jets being scrambled locally by China. These are jets being sent from the Chinese mainland, and so the operational costs are a whole lot longer based on that. Meanwhile, the U.S. move to ban members of the Chinese Communist Party from entering the United States appears to be moving forward. The latest notice from the U.S. government states that except in special circumstances, any immigrant who is or has been a member of the Communist Party, whether it's foreign or domestic, or any other totalitarian party, is inadmissible to the United States. Now, this policy could deeply impact not just CCP leaders, but also members of its Youth League and its Young Pioneers, and even members of, say, family of these different CCP leaders. The Youth League and the Young Pioneers are like the lower tiers of the Communist Party. They're for students, whether in high school or middle school. And so for the Chinese Communist Party, if you're dealing with anyone wealthy enough, typically to travel abroad, this could mean they cannot travel to the United States. For CCP leaders, it's almost a joke in China. Most of them send their family abroad. They send their wives abroad, they send their kids abroad, they send their kids to study in U.S. schools. And so for them, this is a major blow. Also, they use this to get money out of China. The policy manual of U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services states, quote, "An alien who is or has been a member of or affiliated with the Communist or any other totalitarian party is inadmissible under INA," that's the Immigration and Nationality Act, unless exception applies. Now, Chinese state media reported on September 29th a case where a person was applying for a green card, and the first question they were asked by the immigration officer was whether he was a member of the Chinese Communist Party. He was also told that if he withdrew from the CCP, who would need to demonstrate proof of the withdrawal. Meaning, again, if they want to immigrate to the US, if they want to get green cards even, they need to be either not members of the CCP to begin with, or they need to officially withdraw from the Chinese Communist Party. So in China, for example, if you're part of the Youth League, the Young Pioneers, this is kind of the sign that you're part of the, say, elite student group. It means that you're a high achiever, typically. The Chinese Communist Party bestows its membership on those who align with its political doctrines. They have, for example, slogan classes in China, where you need to, in school, repeat party slogans for a whole hour. They have, for example, requirements that if your business does especially well, if you reach a certain level, you and sometimes most of your, say, employees need to become Communist Party members. The Chinese Communist Party is actively trying to recruit people to the Communist Party. And in China, it's very difficult to be at anywhere of, say any prominence in the society unless you are a Communist Party member. If you're a Communist Party member, it means a few things. You have to pay your party dues, meaning you have to pay fees to the Communist Party. You also have to join weekly study sessions of communist texts. And so these are people who are actively being indoctrinated with the Chinese Communist Party's worldview. And with that, all of its different doctrines to serve the Communist Party and to give your life for the Communist Party. The idea is this, that if they, say, immigrate to the United States and they're still loyal to the CCP, it means they are more interested, based on their oath, to serving the interests of the Chinese Communist Party than they would be to, for example, say, following US law and these types of things. That would be the main concern. Now, it appears also that other nations are following suit. In the UK, the government is tightening rules over which subjects foreign students can study. Reuters reported this as part of a move to prevent intellectual property theft, specifically by Chinese students, and says it's expected the measures will block hundreds of Chinese students from entering the UK. In Japan also, the government has allocated around $2.1 million to begin a program that would examine the visas of foreign students and researchers, again, in a move to prevent them from stealing technology for China. And on that as well, again, if they become Communist Party members, if they're members of the Young Pioneers, the Youth League, or the Communist Party itself, it means they've sworn an oath to the Chinese Communist Party to give their lives for the party. If, for example, they go to other countries and they're working on, say, research projects that the CCP deems valuable based on that oath, they are expected to steal that and provide it back to the CCP. Also, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany tested positive for the CCP virus. She made the announcement on October 5th. Now, in a statement released on Twitter, she said, "After testing negative consistently, including every day since Thursday, I tested positive for COVID-19 on Monday morning while experiencing no symptoms. No reporters, producers, or members of the press are listed as close contacts by the White House Medical Unit." Now, in other news, President Donald Trump is expected to fully recover soon from the CCP virus. He was allegedly only experiencing mild symptoms after he and First Lady Melania Trump were placed in quarantine after being diagnosed with the virus. On October 4th, he appeared in a video thanking hospital staff at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center and declared as well he was already feeling better. He also made a surprise appearance in a car to wave at supporters outside the hospital. Trump also continued working from the hospital. There were photos of it, and it was expected to return to the White House as early as October 5th, which is the day this video premieres. Already on October 3rd, a day after his diagnosis, doctors at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Maryland said Trump was fever-free and also begun treatment with remdesivir. Now, y'all might remember the past on this. Who remembers remdesivir? At the height of the virus outbreak, when it was still mostly in China, the United States announced that it found a treatment for the virus. That was remdesivir. It was provided to China free of charge. And what happened? One of the main CCP companies, tied ironically to its Wuhan laboratory, patented remdesivir. It patented this cure that we gave them. And now it happens, really we heard nothing of it for a long time, and now we see Trump using a treatment regimen using that. And so what happens now? When Trump comes back, and he's showing signs that he's going to be back pretty soon, what does this mean in terms of treatment for the virus? Very likely Trump is going to push for similar treatments that he went through, because really, he was diagnosed early Friday morning about 1 a.m., and now already he's almost better. A lot of people have taken a long time to recover from this virus. Trump has bounced back in a few days. And so what does this mean again? Trump has experienced very likely what seems to be a functioning treatment. We'll have to see what that means going forward, but very likely he could push through some of the different blockades being put in place by researchers, by politicians, by media, ironically, by some of the tech industry, censoring people for talking about treatments, and also with different medical institutions trying to block, again, different, say, cures coming out or alleged treatments coming out. Trump has now experienced a functioning, it appears, treatment for the virus. Very likely he's going to be pushing hard on this when he gets back. Again, my analysis on this. And meanwhile, focus is shifting to China when it comes to Trump getting sick from this virus. Many are calling out the Chinese Communist Party for being responsible for the President of the United States for falling ill. Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani told Fox News on October 4th that China had attacked the United States and stated, quote, "I hold them responsible for what happened to my president."
And we assert ourselves as the most powerful nation on earth, because otherwise, you know who will? The country that attacked us, China. And they attacked us with
Bingo,
this.
Mr. Mayor.
Believe me.
Yeah.
I hold them responsible. I hold them responsible for what happened to my president yesterday. Well, it was the day before yesterday, and everybody else.
Now, when it comes to that, is the Chinese Communist Party responsible? Well, you could point, for example, at the cover-up of the virus in the early stages. Trump himself had stated that had China not covered up the outbreak of the virus, had they not lied to the world about, they say, there's no human-to-human transmission, had they not told the World Health Organization there was no human-to-human transmission, and had the WHO not repeated that verbatim without checking it first, the virus may not have spread to just about every corner of the world as it has. And so, yes, they are pointing to China as being responsible for this. And China's negligence and China's lies, again, are being blamed for the cause of Trump getting sick because of this. And based on Trump's recovery so far, it does appear he'll be better in time to join the October 15th presidential debates in Miami. And also, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden has also agreed to be there. This was confirmed on October 4th in a CNN interview with Biden's senior campaign advisor, Simone Sanders. And as this unfolds, Biden said on October 3rd that wearing a face mask during this time is a, quote, patriotic duty. During a virtual town hall, Biden stated, quote, "We need a nationwide mask guidance so that no one gets on a public transportation unit without a mask." Now, what are we seeing here? When it comes to Biden and the Democratic Party, their stance when it comes to masks and lockdowns is this. They believe this should be a policy at the federal level. They believe the federal government should be the ones requiring masks, requiring lockdowns across the entire United States. They believe, again, the federal government should intervene in state policies when it comes to this. The Trump administration's stance on this has been different. Trump has said that governors and mayors can make the decisions themselves. And we've seen different, say, lockdown standards, different mask standards used in different parts of the U.S. Now, based on numbers, based on death counts, it does appear the lockdowns have caused more harm than good. Now, who knows when it comes to masks, but when it comes to lockdowns, the areas that have tighter lockdowns have had more deaths. You could blame this, for example, on the fact that many people, who were sick were sent to senior homes, retirement homes, and a lot of the deaths took place in the retirement homes. Cuomo in New York has been blamed partly for that. And so, hard to say if the lockdowns have really been effective. Again, the Democrat stance, the Democrat position, this should be a federal government decision. The Trump administration decision is saying this should be a local government decision. During the September 29th presidential debates between President Donald Trump and Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, Trump made the allegation that Biden's son, Hunter Biden, had made millions of dollars in deals linked to China and Russia. Now, Biden denied these allegations, and his campaign has also dismissed these allegations as conspiracy theories and rumors. But to learn more about this issue, we've invited to speak with us M.A.Taylor. He's the director of Riding the Dragon. We'll jump into that now. M.A.Taylor, it's great having you on Crossroads.
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, so a lot of people have been asking about Hunter Biden. The issue with Hunter Biden is alleged deals with Russia and China. They were mentioned by Trump at the recent the political debates between him and Biden. And Biden came back and said, oh, that's conspiracy theory, it's lies, it's false, and so on. But, what are the main accusations? Your documentary really goes over quite a few of them. Could you outline what are the main accusations here?
The main accusation is that Hunter Biden gained access to government officials, money, various deals through his father while he was vice president of the United States during the Obama administration. So essentially what happened was Joe Biden would fly somewhere or to China, do a deal, and Hunter Biden would come with him. And while Joe Biden was doing the business of our nation, Hunter Biden would be getting some kind of backroom deal or investment from some very shady characters, being the CCP, the Chinese military, into companies that he would then invest in. And a lot of these companies were actually working against the interests of the United States. So there is nothing particularly illegal about investing or foreign investors or these kinds of deals. But the problem is that Hunter Biden has no skill set that any of these investors need. He's not like a Bill Gates. He's not a Sergey Brin. You don't bring him on to give you advice or consult because he has no skills. And so it's clearly a quid pro quo. It's a posturing. And the problem is that Joe Biden's son received a lot of money, made a lot of money, and he owes the Chinese government favors. So if he becomes the president of the United States, he's going to have to pay China back for all the deals they gave his son, which is hugely problematic as the president of the United States.
Now, how much money about are we talking here?
Well, we know that Bohai Harvest was given $1 billion and eventually $1.5 billion investment from the Chinese government. That is just one of the deals. So the assumption is that if they received $1 billion or $1.5 billion, and this has happened over a series of investments, but Bohai Harvest was one of the largest, that's just the tip of the iceberg because that's just what we know. So there could be a lot more money. And again, it's one thing if China is investing in, say, a Disney or a Honda or something like that, but they are not. They are investing in companies that build surveillance software to control the Chinese citizens. They are investing in companies that are conducting espionage for nuclear technology. They are investing in companies that are stealing our F-35 technology for fighter jets. These are dangerous investments that Hunter Biden was participating in. Again, it's not wrong to have a foreign investor, but these are things that are complicated for national security, and that is really why this is it's a show of character, poor character, and poor choices.
Now, it's interesting. A lot of this reminds me of Clinton Cash. I know Peter Schweizer, who worked on Clinton Cash, actually is a narrator for this film. And it was interesting to see, actually. Now, you all might remember when Clinton Cash came out, just talking to our viewers, when that came out, it wasn't controversial. It was controversial, but it wasn't considered partisan. Actually, New York Times did a big article on alleged Clinton corruption based on that book, based on those findings, and that wasn't really considered partisan at that time. What I find interesting about this new documentary is that it seems to follow the same framework that Clinton Cash was based on in terms of how these alleged deals were being made based on the position of a politician and based on a family member. So, Clinton, for example, Hillary Clinton was doing tours, Bill Clinton was getting, speaking gigs based on that, and a lot of money was going to the Clinton Foundation. Mm-hmm. How close would you say these two models align between what Biden was doing with his son and what Hillary Clinton was allegedly doing, we could say, with Bill Clinton?
Well, there's a lot of similarities between these two operations. I would say, having worked in Clinton Cash and Riding the Dragon, that the Clintons are more thorough. They're smarter, I think, in how they build these things out. I think the Clintons are more open to any deal. So, some of the deals that were featured in Clinton Cash were, cutting down the rainforests in Colombia or doing deals with Nigeria. But these are not particularly deals that are threatening us right now. Nigeria is not going to advance some kind of horrible, scourge across the earth. The Chinese are very different. Again, if you are participating in a deal that actually puts Americans at risk, again, Clinton Cash is about the pattern of corruption and a pattern of how you will act ethically. I think the Biden-Hunter scenario The Joe Biden, Hunter Biden scenario is particularly more dangerous because it is actually giving our enemies things they require and access that they require to actually do damage and harm and push their agenda across the whole world with Belt and Road and so on and so forth. So I think the worst thing in the Clinton cash film was clearly the Rosatom deal with the 20% of uranium sold to Russia, and which is terrible. With this, it's every single deal is actually terrible, and every single deal threatens every man, woman, and child in this country because it advances the communist and the CCP agenda everywhere.
Well, there's a few things I want to get into. First off, well, we'll get into that in a bit. One interesting thing that stands out for me in this is the fact that a lot of this happened when the Obama administration was doing its Asia pivot, allegedly when they were standing up against threats from China. And if they were standing up against threats from China, why were they making deals with China that help its defense industries? The nature of the meetings when Biden was going to China during that time, during the Asia pivot, seemed to be opposite of the types of deals that were allowed to be made during that time. What's your perspective on this?
Well, the irony of this is that, we just talked about Clinton cash and we're talking about riding the dragon. These are things that are happening in the same administration, right? There you have the Clintons. This is the Secretary of State. And not to mention, we haven't even talked about Chris Hines, who was a business partner with Hunter Biden, who is the son of John Kerry or the stepson of John Kerry. So what you have is a lot of high-level cabinet-level officials in the Obama administration who are trading favors with our enemies and self-enriching themselves. So I think it's a pattern of corruption within the administration itself. I'm not saying Obama was particularly participating in these things, but a lot of his people were. And again, it's a pattern. There's no single deal that we outline that's worse than another. They're all bad. This is the same pattern over and over and over again. So if you want to know what Joe Biden's presidency will be like, this is the pattern. This is how he conducts his business. And so, I think that in some instances, you had scenarios where, in the case of China Mali, where Hunter Biden was actually helping our enemies secure things when the Obama administration was actually prosecuting these deals. And so you actually have these things working against each other. You have other deals where with the ABIC purchasing Henniges in Michigan, where the Obama administration had to sign off on the deal. And in fact, they did. So I think that it's a pattern of corruption that kind of permeates the whole administration. It permeates at least three members, high-level members, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and John Kerry. And they're doing it through their children in the case of Joe Biden and John Kerry. And then, of course, Hillary Clinton is doing it through her husband. So that is kind of the makeup of the administration. And I'm sure there are other officials who are probably doing the same thing. And when you run the State Department and the State Department says, oh, you shouldn't do this, if you run it, you can get it passed. So it's a problem throughout that 8 years of that administration for these kinds of deals. And now they're coming home to roost.
Now, it was interesting, the timing of your documentary, because around the time it came out, the Senate actually released its own report. It was mostly Senate Republicans, also alleging that Hunter Biden had made these different deals with China and Russia. And, also actually showed some issues with potential human trafficking, which was pretty bizarre. We can speculate on the nature of that. Maybe it was prostitutes or whatever, but there was mention of that in the report. The Biden campaign responded to that. Now, they said that these are conspiracy theories. It's playing into, extreme right conspiracies. The information's all false. How would you respond to that?
I mean, look, I think that what the Senate report did, it merely just made some of these things official. In our film, we only briefly touch on Burisma and the Ukraine. But clearly, Hunter Biden is doing deals everywhere. And again, all it does is just establish a more official pattern. We're very clear in our film to say, for example, that they may not have known about Alan Ho and his espionage with China General Nuclear. But the fact of the matter is that they were 10% equity holders of China General Nuclear. So we're very clear to say that they may not know all the time, but again, you're still in bed with the CCP or the Chinese military entities that want to destroy our country. And so whether it's oligarchs, whether it's the CCP, it doesn't really matter. It just shows that they have either a poor choice of judgment, or they are, they just don't care about the safety of the United States and the free world.
Now, with that said, folks, we're again broadcasting 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and also we do a live Q&A every Sunday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, if you want to support this channel, please consider joining us on Patreon. You can find the link to our Patreon page in the description below. As always, also, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps this channel. And also, if you want to go the extra mile, as always, please consider telling a friend or family member about Crossroads, and also please consider sharing this video. Now, that said, please take care of yourselves, stay healthy, and stay free.